What's up, weebs? Welcome back to Anime Lane, the podcast where we take you down the yellow brick road of anime and have a look at everything it has to offer. As always, I am your host, Notorious, and joining once again today is just Shaun.
Just me.
Just
Only
you.
me.
Only you.
Never anyone else now.
Melina's in Italy right now. Which, you know, a little sad. We're stuck in Scotland. She's...
Yeah, exactly. Like, you say it like that. Like, god damn, we weren't invited.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very close to Christmas for us. Like, normally I wouldn't jump in with that, but like, when I read out the date of when Dandadan finished airing, like, know that we're covering it like almost immediately after it's finished, just for listeners.
It is like a couple days before Christmas.
It's Christmas Eve.
And this is not a Christmas episode.
No. We did do a Christmas episode this year, but that only happened last year by accident, so that's fine.
Yeah. Let it be known though, I am wearing a Christmas jumper
You
right now,
are.
so that makes it festive.
You are. I'm not wearing anything Christmassy today. I do have my
You have no joy.
I have my red jumper that you called Christmassy the other day.
Yeah. It's not quite the same though.
Yeah. Anyway, on today's episode, we are hunting ghosts and chasing aliens in Dandadan, directed by Fuga Yamashiro, written by Hiroshi Deko, music by Kensuke Ushio, animation production by Science Saru. It aired from October 1st through 4th, not 1st, whatever 1st is, October 4th through December 20th.
Lousy smart weather.
October 4th through December 20th, 2024, for a total of 12 episodes in its first season. You can find it streaming on Crunchyroll and Netflix. Season 2 has been confirmed for a July 2025 premiere. It's based on the manga by Yokinobu Tatsu, published on Shonen Jump Plus in Japan since April 6, 2021, and is licensed by Viz, with weekly chapters available on their Shonen Jump app in English. Currently, there are 17 collected volumes available in Japanese and 10 in English as of recording. You can find a link to the Anime News Network database entry in the description, where you can find extended credits for the episodes, because I am done reading out the episode credits. Like, it just takes up too much time and space, and
it is a lot.
It's a lot. So yeah, I didn't know what to expect going into Dandadan.
The only prior knowledge other than the name was a little bit of the concept, and it wasn't even from something related to Dandadan. It was basically fan art for another show that basically took the concept and put the characters of that show. It was a Gravity Falls, like,
of course it was.
But I was like, that's where I first heard the premise, and so when you suggested that we could maybe watch this for, like, when we were doing these episodes without Melina, I was like, you know, yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I want to see what that's about. Fucking nuts is what it is, apparently.
Yes, both in a metaphorical crazy sense and in a literal sense.
Oh yeah, I chose my words very carefully there.
Yeah, because like our initial plan for, like, when we knew we kind of had to cover January as well, we sort of put together like a semblance of like a half plan of if we could nab Melina for some recordings like this. And if we couldn't, and initially it kind of ended up being that we were doing half and half. So at the end of the month, by this point it'll have been announced that we're covering the rebuilds of Evangelion, and so we nabbed Melina for that, but we couldn't nab her for anything else. So we were like, okay, so we'll cover a couple of things. And I think initially we landed on Terminator Zero Dark Water, which is a live action J-horror movie, and something else. Our Altered Carbon Resleeved, which we were like, yeah, I guess.
It's something sort of related to things we like. We could probably watch it.
Because we had floated, or I had floated Dandadan, and I was like, it maybe finishes airing just a little too close to when we want to record some of these episodes. Like, assuming we couldn't get Melina at all. And then we could, and we were like, okay, well, let's just do Dandadan anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we did. This was really fun to watch, or to like start watching anyway.
Yeah, but this is just the first half.
Yes. This episode
if
1
you
through...
haven't read the title.
Yes, episode 1 through 7 specifically, just so... So we were going to do 1 through 6, and then we were like, oh, episode 6 is a part 1 of 2, basically.
Yeah.
So we ended up watching 7 as well. it
I'm
gets
glad we did, because I really liked.
Yeah.
Just to say that I really liked episode 7 and its whole backstory thing.
I liked it. I think it just maybe like went on. Like I know they had to fill the episode, so it's understandable. I just think it maybe went on like a bit too long. Like I think they got the point across, and then they kept drilling the point to the point that I was like, okay, we can wrap this up now.
But it was so sad.
I think it doesn't help that like I don't care for I don't actually know her name, but the girl with the pink hair.
Ira?
Ira, that's it. Yeah. Like so far, all we've seen of her paints her as a bitch.
Yeah.
And so,
to be fair, this was like the introductory episode, basically.
Yeah. But if they're setting her up to be like a main character from this point on, like they've got a lot of legwork to do to make her remotely likable.
I mean, I'm not sure I entirely agree on that, just from like these episodes, because yeah, she's a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, she's presented as that, but she's also kind of insane as well throughout that whole episode in like a really sort of fun, crazy way.
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's just like the dynamic between Momo and Okarun is so like crazy as it is, and they'll flip on each other on a dime anyway, and like I don't know if we need another girl who's like crazy in that. I think it would have been better to have like the straight man character kind of come in.
I wonder if that's going to be another character who keeps popping up in like the opening and like the credits and stuff that hasn't actually appeared in the show yet.
Yeah.
In the episodes we've seen. I wonder if they're going to be the straight man, but we haven't seen that episode yet. But I think Ira has the potential to fit into that dynamic well, just from what we've seen of her. I really like that you think she's going to be typical like sort of tropey popular girl slash character, and then like within like 10 minutes of her introductory episode, she immediately has a cape on, is declaring herself as the best demon hunter ever, like a typical anime pro tag, and I was like, oh, you're just kind of nuts too. That makes you a lot more fun.
Yeah, I think it's maybe just I've seen a lot of shonen, so like there's just that thing of sometimes you don't get a dynamic established enough before something's brought in to, you know, throw that off or to spice it up, and it's like, okay, well, I don't feel like I know these characters that you've introduced so far, because before Ira gets introduced, like, we have Turbo Granny essentially become like a fundamental character of the show now.
He becomes Turbo Cat.
And so like I don't feel like I know, like, we've gone through the opening section where Okarun and Momo have their kind of like challenge of get Okarun's wiener back.
The family jewels.
And so like they kind of get to know each other, but then when that's all blown over, their dynamic shifts into like, well, we're friends now, and how do we handle friendship? And like I don't think we get enough to see that before there's more characters thrown into like that.
I do get that, because I will say I was kind of surprised that we were very quickly getting Ira, because again, I recognized her from the opening, so I knew she would be like a recurring character, but when she did pop up, she was sort of immediately dropped into like the central like piece of the plot in those episodes. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of fast.
Yeah,
but I feel like that's just the way the show's paced, because I'm gonna be honest, a lot of the show is paced very quickly.
Oh, it's a very fast-paced series. It's very comedy like driven, and so like that's all about the fast-paced, you know, beats. But I think maybe having her as like a side character antagonist for a bit, and then making her the central cookie girl that gets, you know, one of Okarun's balls.
Yeah. Family jewels.
It's
that
also
have spirit powers.
it's very interesting that he's already got one of them back. Because if they get the other one back, say by the end of this season, like what's the story gonna be?
More aliens.
Because I imagine the manga is actually quite far ahead of wherever season 1 ends, because there's something like 177 chapters at the moment, I think, when I checked.
More than I expected, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been publishing since 2001 on a weekly... 2021, since on a weekly basis.
Yeah,
so.
I was going to say 2001.
No. 2021 on like a
Holy
weekly
shit.
basis. So I imagine, like, if it's doing the average of, like, say, 4 chapters an episode, minus the first episode, which was probably just the first chapter or so, then you're looking at it ending around chapter 40 or 50-ish. So I'm curious, like, what does the series become once Okarun gets his balls back?
I am kind of curious, but I'm gonna be. Part of me is wondering if it's gonna be just more of a less overarching story, or more just here's this monster, or here's
I would
monster.
really like that.
Work.
I would love a more Monster of the Week thing. Like I kind of once they dealt with Turbo Granny, that's sort of what I expected would happen, is that it would become a bit of a Monster of the Week, and just be like that for a little bit, a bit more kind of slice of life-esque rather than plot-centric. And it seems like it's still kind of doing plot-centric, which I'm not against. It's just it wasn't what I was expecting.
The sort of tone I got from this, other than like all the family jewels stuff popping in, I weirdly got the tone of like a classic sort of Cartoon Network show, if that makes any sense. Like,
I think the perfect description I saw for this is in another server, someone said it's basically if someone took the concept of the Ghost Stories dub but did it well.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that this lady Emily tweet that basically said the same thing. It's like someone took the inherent craziness of the Ghost Story dub and turned it into an actual show.
Maybe it was Lady Emily I seen say that then. I thought I saw someone... Maybe this is probably a thought more than one person's had, to be fair, so... Yeah,
to be fair, I imagine it's like a common thought. Yeah. Jesus Christ, I was not expecting, like, any of that from just the first episode, though, on, like, the aliens, and, like, the big con, I want to say, of the show so far is still that, like, sexual assault scene in the first episode. Like, that's really pushing it, I think.
Everyone
going into craziness.
Everyone's pointed that scene out, especially, like, it doesn't stand anywhere with the rest of anything else that we've seen so far either. Like, it is such a strange, especially the framing of like everything during that sequence is very, very
yeah, like the rest of the show has this sort of charm to it where like it can maybe make some not risque jokes, but just sort of like jokes of that sort of nature where it doesn't feel creepy.
Yeah, because like Seiko or Momo's gran is like constantly asking to see Okarun's, you know, family jewels.
But they then state like afterwards, like, oh, she's basically just doing it to cheer you up and to take your mind off doom and gloom, which is one way to do it, I guess.
She also wants to make sure all the bits and bobs are indeed present.
Yeah, but you know, consent.
And he doesn't, and then he pays the price because he somehow doesn't notice that his balls are still missing.
Should have consented. Yeah.
To be fair, I would have.
No. We're not having this discussion. But yeah, it's very in contrast to that first episode where like they strip Momo down for no reason.
Yeah.
And then they do the alien thing where they're like, we're gonna probe you, but they don't. It's like they haven't quite gotten down the exact tone they wanted yet.
No, it almost feels like every shonen, specifically Shonen Jump thing, is meant to have some sexualization early on, as if it's meant to like draw in that.
Yeah, like it's the magnet that's gonna like get
Yeah.
the audience, and you don't really need that.
Yeah.
I would say in this day and age, at least.
Because that whole episode, like, I mean, even everything else, the whole show, like, so far for a weekly, you know, on-air show has looked incredible. But that first episode specifically has, like, near movie quality animation to it. So it's just a shame that that one section of it kind of ruins that whole vibe, because that could have been kooky, wacky, funny, crazy without that. I mean,
we didn't need her in our underwear. Is like the main thing here.
Like the whole thing comes down to, if she had her clothes on, it would have been less weird. Because they could have still played the jokes off of the aliens wanting to probe her, wanting to. They can't reproduce, so they're gonna take her banana, whatever that means.
What does banana mean in this context?
I don't know, because they then referred to Okarun's banana as well, and I was like, okay, so it's not the uterus. So what is it then? Do they just
not know?
Maybe they don't know.
It's cool. It's cool if they don't know, but they don't really make it clear enough where that's the intent.
Dandadan banana.
Like, I get it, they're aliens. They don't have, and if they don't have like a female like in their species, then that like it makes sense they wouldn't know. But they don't make it clear enough where that's the joke.
Oh, apparently banana is like a catch-all term for genitalia? Maybe that's a specific... I've never heard that, personally.
Yeah, neither have I.
Maybe it's a specifically Japanese thing?
Yeah, like referring to all sort of genitalia.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because bananas are very specifically shaped, so that's what confused me.
Yeah. Like, it makes sense when it's like Okarun.
Yeah, not necessarily Momo. Yeah. They could have played that whole thing off much differently and
to
less...
end this conversation, please.
Less skeezy, I think, had they not just, like, stripped her down to her underwear. Because, like, she's a high school girl. Like, we don't need that.
It's uncomfortable.
100%.
And not in, like, a funny or, like, it serves the purpose. It's just uncomfortable for no reason.
Yeah. But that whole...
everything else has been really fun and great.
Yeah. I didn't expect, like, again, I didn't expect it to, like, kick into gear so fast.
Same.
Because normally, like, I'd say most shonen stuff, it's like the first episode builds everything up, and then the big cliffhanger is, like, the rug pull, so to speak. Like, just to... I guess speak for Bleach specifically, that's the one that's coming to mind the most, is that you spend this whole episode where it builds up Ichigo's, like, can see ghosts, and he's just a normal high school kid, and then he meets this girl, who's, like, no one else can see type thing, and it turns out she's a soul reaper, and then at the end of the episode, one of the big, like, I can't remember what they're called. The monster things attack their house, and he, like, sees her fighting it, and then she gives him her powers, and then, like, the episode ends, and then the next episode is then the fight and him learning how to use those powers. So, like, I kind of expected maybe the first episode would build up Okarun and Momo's, you know, conflict, and then the episode would end around, like, them being pulled in. You know, like, you would have Okarun being captured by Turbo Granny, and then you'd have Momo getting picked up by the aliens. Whereas
like, have that at the end of episode 1 instead of, like, 10 minutes.
Yeah. Whereas we end the episode with learning Okarun's actual name, which we didn't get the entire time.
For a big good chunk of episode 1, I thought his name literally was Occult Goon.
Yeah, no.
I was like, wow, his parents really fucking hated him, huh?
She just didn't bother to ask.
Nah. I mean, it was a weird day.
Yeah, that's fair. That's true.
Quite the coincidence, by the way, that name.
Yeah. I mean, she calls him that because of, oh, do you mean his real name, or?
Yeah, the real name.
The real name, yeah. I still don't really know if... I don't get the point of that joke, really.
Yeah.
It's funny, I guess, but it's gonna wear out kind of quickly.
I think that's the reason why they haven't really brought it up again.
Yeah, that's true. Because they brought it up, what, again, in episode 4 or 5, when they're, like, chasing him around the house or something. And then that's, like, I think the only other time.
It basically serves as more fuel for like, the whole romance possible subplot thing.
Yeah.
Which it's really funny to me that it took, like, 4 or 5 episodes for Okurun to realize, wait, you're a girl.
I find that hilarious when she sat down in front of him in the first episode, and it really makes it seem like he immediately is, like, into her. But it takes 6 episodes to...
Yeah, because so much shit happens, like, in between those 2 moments that, like, I kind of don't blame him for his brain just not processing that until right now when everything's calm again.
Yeah. I love that in the entire 7 episodes we've watched, the least strange thing is actually the sumo wrestler part of episode 2. Like, somehow I've basically forgot about that.
That weirdly feels like a filler episode, even though it's not, because it's an important one.
Yeah.
That, like, establishes the whole, like... Well, Momo's, like, family and, like, her, like, home life and stuff. But
yeah.
The sumo wrestler feels very... inconsequential.
It's one of those early, like, we need to shove in something to drive forward this story beat, but we can't incorporate it into the larger plot. So here's a thing that everyone's gonna forget about.
yeah, here's a big box that we can lock this episode in and have it plot in before we're done.
It's a good show. I'm really enjoying it.
Same.
The OP and the ending as well are very, very catchy.
Yeah. I keep, like, humming the Dandadan, 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 Dandadan stuff to myself, like, constantly.
Yeah.
Oh god, there's...
Why are we...
It feels like there's a lot to talk about, but it's also, like, what specifically do we talk about?
That's what I'm thinking. It's like... It's such a strange, like, show.
It's so dense. Every single image has so many things going on.
Hold on, I'm pulling up the episode list here. So yeah, we talked about, like, the random sumo wrestler.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the Grand's introduced.
Yeah, who really wants the kids nuts.
No.
That's
the I'm talking about Momo's Gran.
I mean, we just said she also kind of wants the kids nuts.
Yeah, she was wanting to check that he had everything. I mean, this is after wanting to kill him, you know.
Yes, as you do.
As you do. But no, she then, I find her a strange character. Because she's almost the mentor figure, but she doesn't really do anything.
No, she's disaster ground.
Yeah.
I mean, we have that real first scene with her, other than, like, the flashback in, like, episode 1 or 2. Where, like, which is very different from how she's portrayed in the rest of the show, because you get to that flashback scene, and you think her Grand's gonna be very, like, more traditional spirit medium. Like, I'm thinking in line of, like, Maya Fey from Ace Attorney, because that's my point of reference. And then we cut to her, and she's on, like, a TV show where she gets everything wrong at first.
Which I guess we later find out is more to do with her being outside of her designated area, I guess.
Well, no, actually, because we find out that she wasn't in fact wrong. The guy just lied on TV.
It's weird though, because she does say like they could have at least changed his favorite food as well. So I was like, is it true or not, or are they? What's happening?
I think the way that was supposed to be was that like the guy got found out that what she said was true actually was the actual situation, and she was basically commenting, he hasn't said yet that his favorite food's curry either.
Ah, okay.
That's how I took it anyway. I might have just been misreading that. But yeah, we actually meet her, and she's Gilf Granny with a baseball bat.
Yeah, which is also a pencil.
Is it?
Because she draws the circle with it.
Oh yeah.
And like
I thought she was just making stuff out, like, I don't know, sand.
No, and the like nib part like retracts too. It's a strange.
It is quite the contraption, this baseball bat.
And it's never come up since yet. Anyway,
she just keeps holding it menacingly.
Yeah. Because she doesn't even use the bat later. She uses like a fan thing to hit the... I was going to say Gabagool.
He's a Gabagool. Why Gabagool?
Why Gabagool? I don't know. I don't know where that came from. But Turbo Granny, like, out of Okarun into the cat. Which I'm finally glad is turned up as a character. Because it's been in the opening, the opening and specifically the ending, like the central focus of...
Yeah, because I called it Credits Cat for a while before it fully showed up.
I wasn't expecting it to be Turbo Granny though. I sort of expected, like, deep manly spirit or something being in the cat.
Yeah, I was basically expecting I forget the actual character's name, but from the cat from like Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh, Salem.
Salem, yeah, I was basically expecting that.
Yeah. I sort of
like half guardian spirit thing. No.
I sort of half expected it to be voiced by like, I don't know, Jotaro's voice from JoJo's, or like half. It could have been almost any of the guys from JoJo, and I would have been like, yeah. If it were Dio, I wouldn't have been surprised. It actually would have made the show even better.
This is how he's coming back again.
I actually want to hear that dub now. I want to hear someone put Takahito Koyas's voice over.
We've got to find an impressionist to commission. Just for that.
Yeah. I still can't get over him not realizing he doesn't have balls.
Again, so much has happened. It's fair. He didn't think to check until when he needed to.
I also think that, like, I guess there was a lot happening, but like when Momo tells Ira what it is, I feel like she could have had like a different reaction. She sort of doesn't have one.
What, for like the balls?
Yeah, when Momo tells her it's one of Okarun's.
Yeah.
Because that's even before like.
Are we talking about Momo's reaction or like the Granny's reaction? Sorry.
Ira, yeah.
That was very much a non-reaction. I was expecting a lot more disgust.
Yeah, because it's even before Acrobat Silky turns up too. So like nothing's really happening at that point. She's just like pinning Momo to the ground, trying to exorcise her demons. Which, you know,
as you do.
Yeah, as you do. Cape, Bible, lighter cross.
Where'd they even get the lighter cross? That's my question.
I have no idea. Who has a fucking prop lighter that's shaped like a cross? That's so bizarre.
Was it like a novelty thing they found in a shop? Who had to pay for it?
Maybe.
Are they gonna get Ira to pay them back? Probably not.
Probably not. I don't think Ira's paying anyone.
Why are those two even friends with her? I gotta go into this because they seem very sort of chill
Yeah.
and at least decent. I mean, I don't know them enough, but I'm curious on how they became friends with Ira.
They seem very obedient to her, which, given her
Yeah.
personality, is not the expected outcome.
No.
Like, because it's not even as if she's showing them, she shows to everyone like a ditzy, like, tropey anime girl
Yeah.
persona, but to them she shows her true self, so like, they know she's not a nice person, but they
Yeah.
don't seem on her level, they don't seem her caliber of, like, evil person.
I'm just sort of imagining that like they've just been friends for that long that they're just like, yeah, she's like that. You just got to get used to it.
Look, her mother died.
Look, she took it hard. She's got pink hair that's somehow natural.
Yeah, I mean, in anime, I just don't even question that. To be fair, when it started going into her dead mum's backstory, I was like, oh, maybe it's not naturally pink. And then we see her in the flashback, and I'm like, no, yes.
I spent a good chunk of that episode wondering, so is that little girl supposed to be Ira? And or is it a different girl? Because I didn't know which one was sadder as well, was the thing.
Yeah, I wasn't sure for a while if that was going to turn out to be Ira in flashback as well, but then like doing the ballet and stuff, I was like, oh, okay, I don't think it's like her actual daughter. I don't think Ira's her actual daughter, I mean.
No.
I think she's seeing her as her daughter through, whatever ghosts feel.
Yeah, however that works.
However that works.
Yeah, I wonder if that whole plot line with that little girl is gonna pop in like later on.
I think it'll be interesting, like, if Ira becomes like a mainstay character, Acrobat Silky used her aura to revive her, so I wonder if she'll have like some lingering elements of her, almost in like a Okarun Turbo Granny situation. But we see Acrobat Silky like crumble and fade away. So, but then again, so the same thing happened to Turbo Granny, so...
Yeah, I think it's very up in the air where it could go where we are currently. I'm thinking on like a setup that like, they bring in that whole thing that like her spirit won't find any rest unless, because she's leaving like regrets, so maybe Ira's gonna be pushed into trying to find that long lost like girl, and maybe try and help them there. That's what
I think that would maybe be...
I know it's very plot centric given like what this show is, but that's my natural like how I would have taken it.
I don't think that'll happen purely on the fact of I think her like hugging her at the end is meant to be conclusive.
Yeah, I get that, but it feels like there's just a lingering sort of plot thread there that like...
I don't know, I'm thinking on like every other shonen I've ever seen, and like I just wouldn't be surprised if that was just the end of it, and maybe it'll come up again, but like not as a focus of a story or anything.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I'd be very surprised.
I've just been reminded as well that like one of the stray thoughts I had during that whole section was, is it going to be revealed that Momo is the kid?
Yeah, that would have been weird.
I know, it would have been weird, but like I just had this like moment, like very brief, where I was like, I mean, Momo's not got any parents.
Yeah, that I'm
vaguely like the same kid. Vaguely.
I'm very interested in. The fact that Momo doesn't have parents, and they're never mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, they're mentioned more than Okaruns.
That's true, but then that's classic shonen protagonist right there.
She doesn't have a family. Where did he come from?
We haven't even seen him go home yet.
No, he doesn't have a home.
We've seen Momo's house more than Okarun's, and Okarun is technically the main character.
Yeah.
That's...
I just assume he returns to Hammer Space whenever he's not on screen and at the house.
He returns to Ball World.
Yeah.
Um,
He just goes into that depressed power state.
I love that.
Make him depressed.
I love that mode. That's a very... It's a nice play on the, like, traditional power-up, where they suddenly become more cool and collected and confident, whereas here it's like, he's just depressed.
Yeah, he just gets all of the anti-dopamines.
Yeah.
Like, it just saps the energy away from him, and it's like, why does it do that to you?
To be fair, it does have a big impact on him, so I guess it makes sense some way.
I guess, but like, still, it's like, I'm constantly reminded of like the one animation of like Danny Phantom going, "Guess I'll die," and then just like going into ghost form. That's like the same energy here.
Yeah. I don't think we should make this episode a full hour. I
No.
think we're kind of already, but no, it's fun. I want to see where it goes, and it's probably one of those ones where even though the second season's coming back in July, which is much sooner than I expected, a lot of these things usually like get announced and then it's like a year or two.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been like what, 2 years since My Dress Up Darling finished its first season, and the second season's announced, but we still don't know when it's coming out yet.
Which is very frustrating.
Yes, yeah. I'm glad I'm reading the manga, but the manga's caught up, and so I'm very frustrated at the fact that I think April is the next time a volume comes out. And the last one was like November or something like that, whenever I read it. But yeah, it's probably one I'll end up picking the manga up for once this season's done, despite the fact that the second season's coming out like kind of relatively soon. But it's that sort of like, it's very engaging, I think, and I want to continue it, and I think it's going to be one of those ones where even though you've read it, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out when it's animated, rather than just like, oh well, it's not like My Hero Academia, where it fell off so hard that like I just don't really care to see it animated anymore. Like I've given up. I've finished the manga. But where like Attack on Titan, even though it fell off, it was like, okay, I still want to see how this plays out animated, because it's like mainly more down to the paneling can be confusing. It's such a fast-paced thing that like it can be hard to follow. But like I think Dandadan's comedy and action will be like, you won't lose anything by having read the manga before you see it adapted. I think it'll still be just as fun. But yeah, I guess
this is sort of more of a bonus episode than I think. It's coming out in January.
Yeah,
we're all still recovering really from the end of the year.
We're having to fill a schedule.
Oh, you make it sound like we're not putting any care into this.
Hey, well, when you have to record in December, like that's what happens. This is what happens, is you end up doing stuff just to kind of fill in the space. But like we still enjoy it. We still enjoy talking about it. It's just that like doing these online is a different thing.
It's a different like tone, yeah. And we've not got Melina, which is also a bit of a knock.
Yeah. So it always feels like we're impacted by these things. If we don't have Melina, if we're not in person, like it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, we don't have the exact same energy. Not to say our energy is bad, but it's just not like the same sort of caliber.
Yeah, we can't bounce off each other as well. We're like, because online you've got that slight delay, and you feel bad if you're talking over someone, whereas in person we just always talk over each other. We don't give a shit.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel as personal.
Yeah,
ironically, in person.
Yeah. But yeah, this has been the first half of Dandadan, a nice little half episode, I guess, coming into the first part of the new year.
Sort of more of a preview. We might talk more about it when we've watched the full thing.
Yeah, I think that's the thing of like covering like a show is doing like halves, as you kind of don't have the full context, so it's hard to kind of talk about it. And like you can only go so far talking about things on like an episode level too.
Yeah, and it's also, it doesn't feel as genuine, I feel like, when we do that. Like, if we're going
Yeah.
episode by episode, it feels more like we're trying to hit like a certain quota in an
Uh-huh.
episode,
Yeah.
which I think reflects very well
Yes.
in our
Yeah,
energy.
yeah. If I sound odd, it's because I'm just getting over losing my voice. So it's back, but it's still just a little bit not fully there yet. So if I sound weird, if my laugh doesn't sound right, if I suddenly just cut out while talking, it's probably because my voice is still a little recovering. But other than that, I'm all good. Don't worry. But yeah, it might sound weird.
If it's any consolation, you sound completely fine to me.
Yeah, there's still some stuff, like my voice still has a habit of giving out when I'm laughing and stuff, so
Okay.
But yeah, so the last half of also I'm on a new microphone, but I don't think people will be able to tell that.
Maybe. You might be able to notice if they're like audio files.
Maybe.
We got any listening in?
If you're listening on the the YouTube version where it's slightly higher quality. Anyway, Dandadan. We covered the first 7 episodes back about a month ago. Actually, for us, it's almost a month as well, actually.
Yeah.
And now we're here for the last part where it just sort of stops.
I didn't expect it to just sort of stop right at the beginning of another arc.
Yeah, they clearly got like maybe 2 or 3 chapters in an arc and just stopped.
Yeah.
Which I guess, if you've got like a 12 episode slot, because it's generally unheard of to find less unless you're doing something like Oshinoko where it had like a 90-minute premiere, so that kind of took up an extra slot. So it was still 12 episodes in the slot lineup, but it was 11 episodes. And like long-standing series might get something like that, like one part of Attack on Titan was 16 episodes, but like less is very rare. So I guess they were stuck, but at the same time, could they have not just like, I don't know, padded some stuff out a little bit to not like if it ended with Gigi showing up and then, that's it. Wait for season 2. I think that would have been okay.
Yeah, like, just end it with, hello, I am Rocket Engine Valve. That would have been fun.
Yeah. But no, we get...
that as, like, the grip.
Yeah. Or they maybe could have done some, like, extra stuff with the mannequins just to fill out time. As like a way of ending it, and then like the setup for season 2 is them discussing like going to like his house for the whole exorcism thing, I guess. But yeah, it's weird the way they have ended it where there's 2 plot lines going on. We end with the zoom in to the hole in the house, but also at the same time, Momo is in another situation.
And yet another really uncomfortable situation. God, I feel so sorry for her.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, man, there were a lot of them.
There were
a lot, man.
Yeah.
There was too much, man.
Gators?
Yeah, gators. Never heard that before.
No, I've never...
Could have gone my whole life not learning that.
Yeah. So, yeah. Overall, it was fun. Again,
I
like
enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching more when season 2 comes out around July.
I believe July's the current date that's floating around, because that's sort of around the beginning of the summer season, so that would make sense. I'm kind of torn on whether I want to go read like the manga as well. Because like July's a while away. There's part of me that's like, I don't want to leave it on a cliffhanger like that. But I guess I could wait, because it's not like there's a lot of story build up that it's stopped in the middle of. Like, I could fully just set it out. I like the little Godzilla nod reference rip-off that they did.
I thought they were going to go more into it, but that Nessie doesn't show up in that story as much as I thought it would.
It is very much a nod to Shin Godzilla, because it does the same build-up to the atomic breath as Shin Godzilla does in that movie, but also like it being a kind of, what do they call it, a Plesiodon or Plesiodor, or...
My first thought was like the Godzillasaurus from one of the movies from like, I don't know if it was like the end of the Shinto era or not Shinto. What was the first era called again?
Showa.
The Showa era, yeah, like at the end of that, or maybe the beginning of the Heisei era, there was like a movie that had them go back in time and take out like the dinosaur version of Godzilla.
That's
I was reminded of that. I don't know how accurate that is. I've not seen that movie in full, but
that's versus King Ghidorah, I believe, because that's the one where there's a whole time travel thing, and then aliens take over the Earth. It's not a great film. It's more akin to like the second evolution in Shin Godzilla, where like he starts as like a like water-bound creature, but then like comes onto land and like has, you know, little limbs and kind of squirms his way up Tokyo, but not Tokyo. Yeah, Tokyo. I think it's Tokyo. And then eventually goes back into the water because he's overheating. And it kind of reminded me of that, especially with like the atomic breath setup and stuff. But it's probably a combination of a whole different bunch of parts of Godzilla, which, you know, I should probably be more able to point out, considering I did watch every single
honestly
one.
With the way you did that, go listen to that episode if you don't know what we're talking about. But the fact that you got through all those movies in such like a clean sort of streak, I'm not gonna blame you if they all just sort of melded together in your head after like a while.
It's weird, they still have a lot of definition for some reason, but I think it's like each era is kind of clear cut as to which one you're in. But yeah, I also like the what is it, the pistol mantis?
Oh yeah, Hitmonchan.
Hitmonchan, yeah. It shows up and I'm just like, is that fucking Pokemon?
It's funny, looking at its design, it doesn't look like that much like Hitmonchan other than like the boxing thing, but my mind immediately went, that's fucking Hitmonchan.
Yeah. Especially like the movements, the sort of like repeating the same phrase over and over again at first. Which leads to a weird thing where their blood is milk.
Honestly, it was a good enough weirdness that I wanted to see that character more.
Yeah.
I wanted to delve into whatever the hell his story was.
I also find it like weird. There's a whole like they're having that whole conversation where she's like, "Oh, it's that your blood smells familiar," and you know it builds up to it being milk, and then like the Gran is like yeah, well, you know, milk is the blood of cows. And I was watching that like, no, it's not.
I don't think you know exactly how cows work.
It's like, unless I am under a vastly wrong misconception, no, it's not.
Yeah, I think cows still have blood.
Yeah.
That's a thing that they just have.
Because milk is milk, like it is cow milk. It is meant to be drank.
Humans produce milk, but it's not our blood.
Exactly. Like the milk produced by human females and the milk produced by cow females is essentially the same thing. It's meant to serve the same purpose. How we got to the point of going, let me drink the cow milk instead, I don't know.
Unless you are a vampire, they are not very similar things.
No. It's kind of interesting, like how little actually kind of happens in these last 5 episodes. It's a lot of action going on, I think, for most of it. Like
I had this sort of sorry, I just want to get this out there while I remember. I had this sort of revelation near the end where I realized that this feels very much like a slice of life anime that's got like the setup and like it still has action moments. It still has very good like story stuff, but a lot of it feels very slice of life, and it's just getting. It's very much focused on the characters more than the actual plot line, more than anything else, which isn't bad. I like that.
Yeah, I'm interested in whether it keeps that up, because a lot of shonen stuff can kind of start that way, and then like as they've built the characters up and they get more into like the actual meat of the plot, then you kind of see it becoming more story focused and more kind of arc based. The arcs get longer and time expands and all this sort of stuff, to the point that, you know, an arc in One Piece that took 4 years to come out actually only happened in the space of like a week or 2 weeks within the story, and I'm like, no it didn't. But anyway.
Why is it always One Piece, man, when you tell me shit like that?
It's just a good example because it's the one manga I've been keeping up with for a while now. And it's kind of similar with like My Hero Academia, I guess, is the closest thing I can think to compare this against, where like it starts off with like a lot of these little kind of story arcs with like low stakes goals in mind. Like the first one is the main character Deku needs to train enough to absorb the power that he's gonna take on, and then like the rest of the goals at that point can be seen to him being like figuring out how to use the powers, not decimating his body in the process. Then like it kind of works up to bigger villains and bigger stakes until the point of like the final arc takes, you know, however many years to run in publication, but it only happens over the course of like a few hours realistically, and there's that many characters. It's all very confusing. So I'm curious if they take that approach with Dandadan, whereas I think that wouldn't necessarily fit Dandadan that well. I'd like to see it stay as like a slice of lifey kind of, what's the weirdest moment that we can create for these characters right now?
Yeah. What's the funniest shit we can do in this moment? Is exactly like the philosophy of these episodes, and it's great.
Yeah, like Okarun being completely nude and squeezing him like a fish to propel him through water.
I have to admit, never would have thought of that on my own.
No.
Almost got a good head on her shoulders, I guess.
She's creative at the very least.
Yeah, you know, that's good.
Because as of now, you know, Okarun's got his wiener back, and one ball, and they're currently looking for the other ball.
Yeah, just out there.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious if like the one ball is gonna be the goal for a while, or if they'll find it and then they'll need to kind of scramble for some new goal in mind, because given Okarun's awkwardness, like as soon as he's, you know, wholly intact, he's gonna think that Momo is gonna be done with him. Their friendship's over. That's it. There's nothing more keeping them, you know, together as friends.
Yeah, because he has such little faith in his own like friendship strength.
Yeah,
even though it's a great friendship.
Yeah. He really
is an awkward fellow after all.
It's one of those things I really appreciate the most about this series, is that it probably handles the whole like two main characters having a crush on each other the best, where they're both extremely awkward about it. They both kind of half realize but don't realize that they like each other, and they kind of want to suss out if the other person does. They have the feeling the other person does, and they kind of want them to admit it first. It's that whole awkwardness, I think, is captured a lot better than a lot of other manga do.
Yeah, it's very much like high school. It's still definitely anime high school, but there's a very much that awkwardness that high school has. And I think it really helps that they did build up a genuine friendship before, like, it even hints that, oh, Okarun has a crush on her now because he's just realized she's a girl.
Because it's like that part near the end of one of the episodes where, like, Okarun's going home and she's, like, hinting at him to, like, say, see you tomorrow or whatever. And it's like, that's the and they're both, like, embarrassed and all that. And I'm like, that's the most genuinely real, like, moment of, you know, having a crush on someone.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of want to extend the moment type thing.
Yeah. I had this, like, moment that I have a lot of, like, shows like this where I'm internally screaming at him to do the thing that she's wanting him to do.
Yeah.
Like, just say see you tomorrow, say it with enthusiasm, just do it right, knowing damn well if I was in this situation I would be no better.
Yeah. He really is an awkward
because I am a hypocrite. And I too am an awkward fellow.
So we also have the introduction of another new character. We've sort of had what's her name? Ira cemented into the extended character list. Which I like that they're kind of playing more into the she's fucking stupid, like, way of her character going, rather than the other direction it could have gone, which was that she was just an absolute menace.
I think I might have said this, like, last time, but I love the fact that, like, they think they're gonna do the tropey thing where she's, like, the bitchy popular girl or whatever, and she still kind of is that, but, like, underneath it, she actually is just as fucking weird as the other two. And she's just too stupid to even recognize.
Yeah, she is that bitchy popular girl, but she's foiled by her own stupidity, and I actually like that play on that trope. But then we have the introduction of Gigi, not Gigi Murin.
No. That's, like, every time you say Gigi, I am trying to get that gremlin out of my head.
Yeah. Gigi, I forget his full name. I know his last name's Emoji or something like that. He's got 2 G's in it. It's basically a fucking JoJo's ass name.
Gigi Emoji.
Yeah, he's got a fucking JoJo's ass name.
He's got, like, a proto-JoJo look. He's just missing the proportions.
So he gets introduced, and I think we come to the first character who I don't care how long he's in it for. He could become a main character. I don't think I'm ever gonna like him. He is just the type of character who bugs the shit out of me.
I think you see, the thing is, I hate him, but, like, I love hating him, so I'm fine if he stays around if I get to hate him more, because he's not, like, an evil bastard or, like, a sadistic, but I don't hate him in the sense that, I want him to suffer a horrible fate. I just hate him the fact that he's a dick. Yeah. Like, he's a flamboyant dick, and it's fun to just be like, I hope you get your comeuppance every once in a while, because it's funny.
He's the very kind of, like, flashy, loud, extrovert character who always always kind of wants to be the center of attention, thinks he's cool, and, like, I don't know, that character, it's hard to do right where it doesn't just get under my skin. and every time he talks, I just want to punch him in the face.
I was close to getting there, but after a while, it's just like, you're as much of a joke as the other. I'll do that as the other three. Even the world might take you a bit seriously, but God knows I'm fucking not.
Yeah.
I say that, I don't think the world actually does take him seriously either.
No. Though, everyone in the class, all the girls in the class seem to think he's hot and attractive and
I don't get that, but, like, at first, like, it's one of Momo's friends that does it, but then after that, she's just like, you're hilarious.
Yeah. He doesn't really get much time right now, which I think is a bit of a shame. He only gets, like, the sort of being the thorn in the side of the whole, like, capture the... What's it called? I was going to call it automaton, but that's not what I'm thinking.
Yeah, the mannequin.
The
sort of,
mannequin.
like,
Yeah.
thing.
Anatomical dummy.
I just called him Two-Face.
Yeah. He's the foil, the sort of like thorn in the side during that moment, but he doesn't really get much of a role to play right now, which again is, I think, kind of comes down to my whole thing of like, maybe they should have ended sooner, maybe they should have found a way to pad time and just kind of introduce him as a tease for the next season, because as of right now he doesn't get much to do. We don't really get to know him super well, other than as like a sort of very mundane antagonistic force to Okarun.
Yeah. Kind of,
Know?
sort of, because he switches between like being like trying to be friends with him at the same time antagonizing him because he's also still into Momo.
Yeah, which is, I wasn't sure how they were going to play that. Like, it almost kind of seemed like he was too self-obsessed to be interested in someone else at first. I wasn't sure if they were going to actually like play out the whole he's interested in her as well character trait. But no, they're playing that out because the balancing force is that Momo just absolutely cannot stand him.
No, I also feel like I can't even tell if like he genuinely is still interested in her. He probably is, but I also can't help escaping the thought that maybe he's just doing it purely to fuck with Okarun.
Yeah, that did cross my mind as well, because they have that conversation kind of near the end of the last episode where he like starts teasing him over liking her, and then there's that like, well, I like her more because I like this aspect of her type thing. And maybe you're right, maybe it is like a kind of just fucking with Okarun type
Thinking
thing.
about it now, because I've had surprisingly, just randomly, I've had a Futurama in the background of like my room. So like one of the things I'm thinking of now is I'm reminded of this one joke where it's basically, oh, I'm a renter bully. I bully you so that you can stand up to me and impress the girl. Like, is that what Okarun's plan is? I can't tell.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but it would be really funny and kind of in character, I think, if he did.
Yeah.
And I will say, when Okarun was actively trying to try and impress Momo and like stand up to him sorta in the house, I was like, get him! I got you, man.
I like that almost everything Okarun does now, he finds a thing of being like, oh well, if I do this without Momo seeing me and I become really good at it, she'll be super impressed. And it's like, dude.
Yeah, it's that teenage thing where you think, if I totally do this, I'll win. I'll win.
If I do the thing, I do it right, and I don't fuck it up, it works. It just works.
Right, the writers will throw me a bone. I got this. Even though that's not how it works.
No, and in
Momo isn't even aware that any of this is happening.
No, and as strange as a series as Dandadan is, like, you just know that however it works out for them is just not gonna be like normal. Some weird shit's gonna happen. I also can't wait to possibly end up with Gigi like getting spiritual powers or something, like ending up as another person who can transform or something like that.
I kind of really hope that he's the only one that doesn't, just because I feel like that'd be a funnier dynamic.
Yeah.
He's the super self-obsessed, self-important one, even in a different way than Ira is, because she kind of is that, but he's the only one that doesn't get powers, and I feel like that would be really funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm completely wrong on that. I feel like I probably am, but it would be really funny.
I think it would be I think it will be interesting to see where they go with that, because like obviously Ira kind of only ends up with her powers because she's like on death's door. And Acrobat Silky does like a bit of a selfless sacrifice there. But there'll be probably some like, like we say, it's what is the funniest thing that can be done in this moment. And yeah, I'm interested to see. This is my big problem with where it's gone, is that it's like all comes down to, I want to see what happens next.
Yes.
And currently we can't, because season 2 doesn't come out for another 6 months, basically.
Yeah, at the very least. So,
Yeah.
I will say for GG, I am reminded that we've got his sort of following yokai thing that's like staring at him.
Yeah.
Where this plot is going, so I imagine maybe that's where he's gonna get his powers from.
I was trying to figure out like if that was like based on something, and it probably is. But you know, like we've covered yokai on the Halloween episodes and stuff like that before, and it's something I'm kind of interested in. So I was like racking my
too.
I was like racking my brain, like, damn, is this a yokai that I can guess sort of like from what its shtick is, what'll happen like with his storyline, but like I didn't recognize it immediately. That's not to say it isn't based on like a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we haven't gotten too much details of what it really is. Most of what it's done is just basically stare at him menacingly.
Yeah.
In his room.
Which a lot of yokai can be boiled down to, really.
I mean,
he's just standing there, menacingly.
We did get that sort of really creepy veiny effect when he was first describing him, but it didn't pop up again after that, and I don't really know what it was about.
Yeah. Because then, like, we only really see him again after when, like, Gigi's sitting in his room, unable to sleep because he's staring at him, which is like, okay, well, just close your eyes.
Yeah, just, you know, stick your head in the sand and he won't be there anymore.
Exactly.
Do what I do in Lethal Company whenever I think the ghost girl is about, and I just move like the computer screen over the door and just be like, if I can't see you, you won't attack me. I see you on the screen dancing, I don't care.
Yeah. It's a fun show. And I'm really looking forward to season 2. And hopefully it continues like the quality that it's set up from season 1. Like that's something that's been impressive, is that like a lot of shows that air week to week, kind of you'll see the first couple episodes maybe stand out quality wise, and then things just kind of not go downhill. That's a rare exception. But like kind of standardize during the middle portions, and then maybe the last episode is like an all out, you know, another impressive piece of work. But like Dandadan's pretty solid throughout. Like even in the mundane stuff, they're putting in a higher amount of effort than like a lot of series do. So yeah, I mean, we've been recording for about 30 minutes already. So,
oh wow, really?
Yeah,
that feels so fast.
I know. Last time kind of felt like we were struggling and grasping for things to say to get us to a reasonable length, whereas now it's like I think we've covered a fairly decent amount of what comes up in the last few episodes and the setup for season 2.
Only problem with these batch of episodes, not enough Turbo Granny.
Not enough Turbo. No, yeah. I do appreciate the one background moment where she just fully launches at Gigi and starts beating the shit out of him.
Strike!
That's just sitting there going, get him! Get him!
Get him!
Get him! Get him!
Turbo Granny. We've got a lot of the grandma, though. That was the other grandma.
Yeah,
it's the actual grandma.
I forget her name.
Same.
Yeah, baseball background.
She's still insane. I can see where Momo gets it from.
There is a little interesting thing where like, randomly, whilst Gigi and Momo are talking in the kitchen, and like the Gran brings up like, oh well, you need to go and exercise this house and blah blah blah. Gigi happens to say the line, why are you calling Auntie Grandma? And I thought, and I'm like, is this gonna lead to another storyline later?
Like an implication. I took note of that too. And it made my brain think, but I don't want to theorize too much, otherwise I'm completely wrong.
Yeah, because like it's just a throwaway thing right now. Like we have nothing else to go on. Everything else that we know.
They could completely disregard it, like,
Exactly.
immediately and just never bring it up again.
Because, like, there's also that weird thing where it's like, oh, well, aren't Gigi and Momo related? And she's kind of like, no, but at the same time, I don't know if that's meant to be the case. Like, are they cousins or something?
I did get a lot of cousin dynamic, but it was weird because they kept saying first love, and I was like,
yeah.
What is the implication here?
Yeah, that was my concern.
What did they mean by this?
Maybe it's all just an elaborate ruse to fuck with Okarun.
Or the audience.
Or
it
the
feels
audience.
like this is the kind of show just to do that to the audience.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Affectionate, by the way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess we'll just kind of call it here.
Another smaller one. We're nearing the end of our winter batch where things have got fucky.
Yeah.
Scheduling.
We should be back to normal by the end of February, kind of in terms of like episodes and recordings and stuff like that. Where like for the audience anyway, for us, it's probably going to go back to normal in like a couple of weeks once we hit February time. December, January are always funny because like we should really prepare more in advance for them, but like we never do.
Absolutely, yeah, but you know, stuff keeps happening, and we're not the most proactive on that sort of stuff.
No.
We really should be, but we're not.
Yeah.
We're sorry.
So yeah, you can look forward to, if you're listening to this as it comes out, you can look forward to this being like an EX episode that comes out like just before season 2 goes up, because like, you know, gotta try and get on in that prime.
That's another slot filled.
Probably not an actual slot, probably put that out on like a Wednesday or something like that, but gotta try and coincide it with when the searchability is just right. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to this. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. I guess we should score it. We are at the end here, so we should probably score it, given that's our usual MO.
I almost forgot.
Yeah. I'm sitting around an 8 or a 9. I think
I'm the same.
It probably could have been a 10, but that last kind of like part where it just stops does bring it down a touch, and there's a couple of moments where I'm like, we didn't really need that. We could have sidestepped.
That's what's pushing it to an 8 for me instead of like a 9. Like there's a lot of really good stuff there, but there is the occasional moment I was like, you didn't need that.
Yeah,
you didn't need. I don't feel like it would have been lesser if you didn't include that. So
yeah, so there we are. That's Dandadan season 1. I'm sure we will not get to season 2 in a timely manner whatsoever.
We will get on that as fast as we've gotten on to Oshinoko season 2.
God, yeah, that's another thing hanging over our heads, isn't it? Is we haven't.
I can sense it, and it keeps calling to me every time. This is such a specific thing. Every time I look up for like a GIF to like react in like the Discord server that we usually talk in, I see multiple Oshinoko ones all the time. And I'm like, oh, I want to watch it, but I can't.
I do want to get onto season 2. It's fitting it in with like our schedule and all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, bye.
Bye bye.